Hey fellow duelists, it's RagingRaidRaptor here, coming at you today with a discussion video discussing ideas I have about the future of zone placement in Yu-Gi-Oh! The idea initially came about while I was writing the script for my Shutline discussion video. It got me wondering how Konami could make zone placement matter in the future, for more than just the introduction of link monsters and the importance of column play. Then I had an epiphany after watching the first few episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! For Reigns, where we see Bishop, and thought to myself, maybe Konami is taking more inspiration from chess more than anything, since Shutline's effect of it only affecting a card that is placed vertically to it was possibly inspired by the castle, as that piece can only move in straight lines, even though it can also move horizontally. And that got me thinking about how other chess pieces could influence card design in the future. One of my ideas is a trap card similar to Shutline, but instead of it only affecting the cards in its column, maybe it could negate effects that are activated in zones that are diagonally to this card on both the right and left sides, similar to the bishop in chess. I think this card could add an extra layer of strategy, as you could place it on either the far left or right side of your spell and trap card zones to negate effects on either your opponent's far left or far right spell and trap card zone, or their left or right monster zone. Alternatively, you could place it on the left or right side to negate summons of monsters in either the right and left extra monster zone or the regular monster zone on the far left and right side of the field. You could even have it placed in the middle to negate effects in the graveyard or field spells. I think this card could possibly add an extra layer of strategy to the game, since it would introduce an element of diagonal play in order to complement column play. They could also make a card inspired by the knights in chess, which I could see happening since the villain organisation in Brains is called the Knights of Hanoi. What I have in mind for this potential card is an effect where it can negate the effect of a monster that is positioned 3 spaces up and 1 to either the left and right side of the field in correlation to this card's position. However, because of the extra monster zones, this could cause some confusion since they are exactly 3 spaces apart from the spell and trap zone. To address this, I think having it in the middle should allow you to negate the summon of an extra deck monster in the extra monster zone. However, if you place it in either the left or right side of the spell and trap card zone, then you will be able to negate the effects of a monster in the middle with the left and right side of your opponent's extra monster zone. But if you place it on the far right side, then it will be able to negate the summon of a monster on the right extra monster zone, and vice versa for the far left. But if you place it on the far right side, then it will be able to negate the summon of a monster on the right extra monster zone, and vice versa for the far left. The far right side will be able to negate effects from your opponent's graveyard, while the far left one will be able to negate field spells. While we are on the topic of chess, what if we have link monsters that allowed you to swap the positions that are on the opposite side of each other in that monster's link zones? Similar to how you can do it with the rook and the king in chess. I think this would provide a bit more strategy to link monsters, since you would be able to choose which monsters you wanted to be protected or destroyed. And you would have to be careful about how you plan your plays in regards to positioning, and would be more fair than a card like Cosmo Dark Destroyer that can't be targeted at all. However, the next idea I'm going to present is going to be extremely out there, but what if we had trap cards that had link markers on them? But instead of opening new zones for extra deck monsters, they will create something that I will refer to as negative links on your opponent's side of the field, where they will create zones that are harmful for your opponent, like closing access to these zones or inflicting damage to your opponent if your opponent puts a card in them. But you might be wondering, how will I be able to get them on my opponent's side of the field? Using the hypothetical cards I presented as examples, they would be able to move themselves into the zones of the card that they negated. But I don't think they should go into the extra monster zone, as I think that would be too broken, since it would be much easier to pull off the extra link mechanic if they did. Maybe a downside would be to send it to the graveyard if it negates an opponent's extra deck monster, instead of placing it on your opponent's side of the field. However, to make these cards more viable, I think it might be worth considering designing cards that can only be placed in certain zones in order to make these cards more viable in competitive play. But my main concern for more cards similar to Shutline is that even if Solemn Strike does get limited, these cards might be too situational to be consistently good. Unlike a card like the Trap Hole cards that are not concerned about what zones it is put in order to be used. If Konami were to want the game to go in this direction of zone placement being more important, but I think cards like the Trap Hole cards might need to be hit to make these zone cards more used. But ultimately, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Konami will make zone-based cards like the ones I just proposed? Or do you think they'll stop making them all over again? If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a like or share it with your friends? I've been RagingRaidRaptor and I'll see you all again next time.